always come work for me. Nobody knows who you are or what happened. Okay, run your own fellowship, be your own boss, keep all your feathers.
My therapist, Michelle, says it's important that I try to return to the life I left. Revisit my routine without changing things up too much.
You just don't want to work back north.
Is it appropriate for me to tell Link in a text so I can avoid having to look him in the eye while I say, hey, remember how careful we were? Not careful enough, Daddy. You kept medical textbooks here? I like to study. It was a sex thing, wasn't it? Look, you're a decent person, and Link is a decent person. He deserves a face-to-face. Is it poor form for me to steal all the toilet paper since I'm the one who always bought it? I already stole 2 protein bars. Ooh, yikes. Yikes. What yikes? Nothing. Jackson posted a sunset photo from his balcony last night. Let me see it. Hashtag freedom? I said ew.
Hello cả nhà nha. Chỉ cả nhà cách làm mobile in nè, cách làm mẫu này nè. Còn bên tay kia chưa làm, tay kia để dành chỉ cho cả nhà. Đẹp không cả nhà? Thả tim đi. Đẹp, thả tim cho Daniel đi.
Differently today. Keep up or get out of my sight. 55-year-old male presents with weakness of the hips after walking short distances and erectile dysfunction.
Who do you think's gonna have a clean the window after this?
Whoever asked that question. Now, someone tell me what to do first.
Check distal pulses, ABIs, and if need to proceed with
Kiểu này nè thì nó hay,
Who are you?
nó hơi mất thời gian nha cả nhà.
We are rounding.
Môi.
Now.
Yeah.
Physical exam revealed.
Ok, để xong cái tay kia đi. Đi. Trước tiên mình sơn lớp màu trắng, rồi sơn một cái lớp top mát, hoặc là mình đắp bột trắng rồi mình sơn cái lớp top mát. Đó. Rồi bây giờ làm nha. Mình cứ nè, bây giờ khách nó đưa ra cái hình đó là trong cái hình đó marble màu xanh dương, rồi màu xanh này và màu tím. Thì đây Daniel là chuẩn bị nè, xanh dương, rồi xanh da trời, rồi màu tím nha. Ok nha. À, giờ mình apply cái xanh dương trước 5 ngón luôn. Đó, cứ dặm lên. One more time, my friend. Đó. Rồi, xanh dương xong đúng không? Dặm xanh dương đi. Rồi, xanh dương xong rồi. Tới ngón này nha. Đó, mình cứ dặm đại đi cả nhà. Ok mình phải. Này, show cả nhà coi. Đó. Đó. Đẹp không cả nhà? You like them, my friend?
class of more than 2 residents. Karev, I need a skills lab for them, a core curriculum, visiting professors.
Chief Karev.
Cái bên bàn tay này là mình quên bỏ cái thớp mát này nha mọi người, nhưng mà không sao, làm luôn.
Did you know this hospital is ranked number 1?
What decade?
This one. It's number 1 in mortality rates, physician burnout, patient
Nhớ bỏ cái thớp mát trước khi làm nha mọi người. Bên đây mình lo làm bên kia trước, cái bên đây mình quên á, không có bỏ, lỡ ấy lên rồi. Đấy luôn. Rồi, tới màu tím nha. Màu tím mình. Đó, màu tím ít thôi. Cái hình của khách á, là nó muốn cái màu xanh lợt á, nhiều. Màu xanh lợt nhiều hơn màu tím rồi. Màu xanh đậm rồi nha. Đó, màu tím ít thôi cả nhà, không cần nhiều đâu. Rồi xong tím với lại xanh dương này nha, mình dẹp nha. Rồi mình chơi xanh lợt nè. Đó, chơi xanh lợt nè, mình dặm ra. Đó, vậy thôi cả nhà. Mình lấy cho xanh lợt nhiều, tại vì trong hình của khách á, khách nó muốn cái xanh lợt này nè, nhiều nè. Đó.
Today we'll be doing a surgery called an axillary bifemoral bypass. We will essentially be creating a tunnel from your armpit down to your groin with a graft, which will then redirect blood flow to all of those poorly perfused areas. Okay, trauma one's free.
Be right there.
Yep. Heard about the parking lot. Everyone okay?
We are fine. He is hemodynamically
Mình
stable.
cứ dặm đại đi nha, chút mình chùi lại alcohol, acetone này nha.
What's that?
The sexy firefighter. She's freedom, right? Freedom from having to live with someone who intellectually challenges you. A surgeon dating a firefighter. You get to feel superior all the time.
Nice.
It was fun. That was the point. Yeah. Maggie, I should. Yeah. If you or Owen need me, just page. Go.
Cái này mình làm mobile in kết hợp với lại treo nha. Kết hợp với lại cái treo nha. Chút mình dùng treo đen mình làm.
Can we go somewhere private? Yeah, not that kind of private.
Đó, khách nó muốn cái màu xanh xanh lợt này nhiều nè.
Pregnant, actually. I know. It's absurd. But it's also true. Judging from my last period, I'm thinking 8 weeks or so. And, I'm not asking you for anything. I just want to avoid any kind of secret keeping or hand wringing. Also, I don't have
Đó, mình cứ làm hết cái mobile này đi, giờ mình dẹp cho nó chống chỗ của mình. Cứ dặm đại đi mọi người. Chút mình dùng alcohol hoặc acetone đó, mình chùi sao. Chỗ phần nào không đáng có đó, mình chùi nó, chùi bỏ nó.
I didn't know you were coming back today. I didn't know if you were coming back at all. Thank you for all of your help last month. I was in bad shape, but I'm better now. I am rested. I'm seeing someone on a regular basis. I didn't know if you were coming back to Grace Sloan. I thought you might join the other Dr. Karev in his new endeavor. Oh, well, he did offer me my own fellowship with no oversight, but well, as it happens, my plate is fuller than ever with all the groundbreaking things we do here. So I will need to take a step back from the fellowship and give you more free reign to pursue and develop as you see fit. Does that sound appealing?
Rồi mình dẹp cái này nha. Mình dẹp mấy chai mobile in này đi,
Let me know.
để cho nó chống chỗ của mình.
I'm sorry. How do you know Meredith?
I only work for her. She said to come here.
Giờ mình chuẩn
Get a CT of my head.
chuẩn bị alcohol ở đây nè.
Really fast away from these people because they don't
Mình không cần liêm nhiều, mình liêm những cái chỗ nào mà không cần thiết thôi. Lên đơn sơ vậy thôi nha cả nhà. Zoom gần cả nhà coi nè. Bên đây mình không cần thiết nè. Lên đó. Đổ thêm aceton vô. Mình không cần lên nhiều đâu nha cả nhà. Tại vì cái hình của nó là nó giống như là nó lộn xộn tập nhắm vậy luôn á cả nhà. Mình chỉ lên những cái chàm, những cái phần mà mình không cần thiết thôi nè. Chà những cái phần không cần thiết thôi. Ở đây nè, thấy không? Chà bỏ nó. Đó, chà bỏ nó. Rồi mấy cái này mình dặm sơ thôi. Rồi xong nha. Giờ nè, cái treo đen nè. Treo đen nè, mình apply lên nè.
Around 1988 in Sacramento, it was a time of a real good growth spurt. I mean, people were buying houses and new developments were coming about. But this neighborhood, for the most part, is still the same.
Mình sẽ tạo ra cái model giống vậy nha cả nhà.
Up and down the street.
Nha. Đó.
That's where the homeless shelters are.
Xong rồi chút mình liêm cái tay nữa nha.
The homeless represent a serious human tragedy that is year-round, and the effort to help them goes on. A city report found that 1 in 5 who sought help or food was turned away.
At that time, County Mental Health had created a homeless task force. Volunteers of America was part of that task force. Our goal was to get them off the street and get them connected with mental health services and a decent place to live.
They suffer from paranoia, and that keeps them from going to shelters, from getting into decent living situations.
On the very first day, I noticed him. I have it on video. His birth
Rồi
name
xong.
was
Giờ đó
Alvaro
mình dùng cái cỏ.
Gonzalez Montoya. People called him Bert.
Đó, cỏ nè.
I
Mình
have a
tán nó
son
ra,
that's
giống như kiểu nó
He
có
had
màu
a
đen
lot
ôm
of
ray xuống á cả nhà.
delusions and a lot of fears, and I recognized that in Bert right
Ừ.
away.
Tán nhẹ nó xuống, cho nó lem xuống.
Bert was born in Costa Rica,
Đó,
and
cho nó
he
lem
came
xuống
with
vậy
his
thôi.
family when he was about
Đơn giản thôi cả
16
nhà.
to one of the southern states. He began to get schizophrenia at age 16.
Ừ, đơn giản thế thôi nha.
The medicine makes you sick? His parents had tried to help him and put him in a mental institution. And they gave him a whole lot of shock therapy. When he got out, he left home. He didn't tell his family. I don't know how he made his way to Sacramento. But he did end up at Detox. He wasn't an alcoholic, but he was the one person they liked staying there.
Rồi xong bây giờ mình vẽ luôn nha cả nhà. Mình làm từng một luôn cho nó nhanh nha. Khỏi bỏ vô hơi đèn vẽ luôn. Vẽ marble luôn nha. Đó. Mình đi rung rung á nha cả nhà, cong cong á. Đi rung rung cong cong á. Cho nó tự nhiên cái đường marble của mình nha. Đó.
Dorothea Puente was loved by her community and loved by local politicians because, of course, she donated their campaigns and things. She would donate to local charities and give them bags of clothing. She was taking in all these people. She treated her neighbors well. And every Wednesday or Thursday was burrito day. And so she was giving free food away to the community. When someone moved into Dorothea's house, Dorothea lived on the top floor, and they lived down below.
Rồi,
These were people
xong một ngón nha cả nhà.
someone called
Mình cứ tạo cái marble theo mình thích nha. Cái marble là nó là free design nha cả nhà. Tự do thiết kế nha.
In some of these cases, she became the person that could actually sign those checks and place them in the bank, in which she did.
So we went to Dorothea Puente's house to see if it would be okay for Bert. She seemed so sweet. She had a box of kittens. She had little bottles of milk that she was feeding them. And she said, "Excuse me, I've got the kitties here." And we're really impressed with that. We're thinking, gee, she is nice. You know, she's got a box of kittens.
Muốn đi cái đường mỏng á, thì mình không có đè cái đầu cọ mạnh nha cả nhà. Nhẹ nhẹ cái đầu cọ nha. Để tạo ra những cái đường mỏng nha. Đó. Vẽ xong cái này bắt đầu mình mới hơ rồi mà mình mới vẽ thêm cái gô nha.
In order to live at Dorothea's, Bert was going to get social security checks to pay for room and board. We didn't have any connection with his family, so she said, I will be his payee. So I went back to Detox and they said, well, let's let him try it. In the beginning, Bert seemed to be thriving under Dorothea's care. And I was very pleased to see him develop friendships within the house and have his own bed, his own.
Ở hướng này thì nó không có thuận tay mình nha cả nhà.
It was nice that he had a decent home. Do you like living where you're living now? I did want to keep tabs on what he was doing.
Đó, mình cứ đi cái đường cong nào theo mình thích
she told me that Bert wasn't here right now.
Nó là
That
tự
he
do
was
điều
in
tra nha
Mexico,
cả nhà.
staying with her brother. There had been a fiesta. I'm hearing that and I'm thinking, it's not like Bert at all. There was something very wrong with that. She said, oh, he'll be back maybe, say Friday. When I called, no, he isn't here. He'll be back next week. Don't worry about it. Then I said, no, what I'm going to do is on Monday, I am going to call the police and I am going to say there's a missing person here. Monday morning, I come into my office and there's a phone call right away. I pick up the phone. And it was a man who said that his name was Don Anthony and that Bert was now no longer at the house. He had come home from Mexico and his family came and picked him up. I didn't believe it. Somehow I knew where I could find John Sharp, who lived there. I said, John, what's going on with Bert? He said, he's not there anymore. And I said, did you go to Mexico? He said, none of us went to Mexico. No. And then I said, so tell me about where you live. Like, is something wrong? He said, yeah, something is wrong here. She's been digging a lot of holes.
When you first look at her, you just go like, this could be my grandmother or the little old lady next door. You cannot judge a book by its cover. And she had one heck of a cover. Dorothea Puente was born Dorothea Gray in Redlands, California in 1929.
Rồi, cả nhà.
She had
Inside.
a hardscrabble upbringing, and both of her parents died relatively early when she was young. Her first crimes are
Rồi
committed
xong
down in
màu đen,
Southern
bây giờ
California.
chuẩn bị cái màu
As I
gold nè.
remember, the first recorded time when she hits the system is in 1948. She was
Nó
convicted of
xong là
felony
nó sẽ ra
forgery,
vậy
writing
nha
a
cả nhà.
fictitious check. In the 1950s, Dorothea worked as a prostitute in Sacramento, and then after a period of years, she became a madam. She was arrested and prosecuted for being both a prostitute and a madam, and sent to jail for a short period of time.
Ok, mình hơi vậy được rồi.
In 1982, I was in the Sacramento District Attorney's Office on a temporary assignment. The first time that I became aware of Dorothea Puente was a case involving a gentleman named Malcolm McKenzie. McKenzie was an older man that Puente picked up at a bar. They had 2 drinks together. He then told her that he lived nearby and took her home.
Cái gold á, mình kéo lại chồng lên cái đen đó cả nhà, thì nó sẽ đẹp hơn nha. Mình bắt đầu từ giữa nè, mình làm cho nó dễ.
But he was able to watch her go through his belongings, take some coins. She came over to him and actually pulled the ring off his hand and then left. When he reported it to the police several hours later, after he regained his motion, Puente was arrested. During that same period of time, Dorothea was passing herself off as a medical doctor to various elderly women and taking advantage of them. She would sometimes carry around a medical bag to make it look as though she was a practitioner of some sort. She had a stethoscope in there. She had a blood pressure cuff. She was not a doctor. She was not a nurse. They were props. She was administering some kind of stupefying drug to them because all of the victims reported the same kind of symptoms. And when they awoke, jewelry, coins, checks were missing. And Puente would be cashing the checks. Dorothea pled guilty to 5 felonies, and she was sentenced to 5 years in state prison. She went to prison in 1982. She was written up in the local media. My name appeared in that report. And the day afterward, I received a phone call from a man,
and he said, "We saw your name in the newspaper. We think Dorothea poisoned our mother."
My mom's name was Ruth Monroe. She had been working at Gemco Pharmacy for like 13 years. The last couple of years, there was this guy that was coming in, kept asking her out. Mom and Harold started seeing each other. He was taking her to visit different bars, steakhouses. Dorothea was a part-time cook at the Flame Club, and she knew Harold. That's how Mom and Dorothea got to be friends. When we first met her, she seemed like a nice person, real friendly. And then after a while of being around, then that's when she started saying, "Well, call me Grandma." Mom had a little bit of money, and Dorothea was talking about opening a restaurant, a little cafe at the corner bar. So her and Mom went in on it together. But Dorothea kept saying that it wasn't making money. So Mom needed to put more money into it, more money into it. So Mom would put more into it. It'd be okay for a while, and then same thing again. She kept hitting her for more money, more money. And then Harold ended up with terminal cancer. Mom didn't want to live alone, so she had us move her into Dorothea's place as a roommate. I would stop by there every day after work, and everything was fine up until the last 3 days. The last 3 days, I saw Mom had a drink in her hand. And my mom didn't drink. Alcohol actually bothered Mom. She was allergic to alcohol. And she said Dorothea had fixed her a drink to calm her nerves because the restaurant closed down. She said it wasn't making any money and we don't have any more money to put into it. And the drink, I said, "Well, what is it?" And she said, "Cream de mint." The next day, I get there and Dorothea's sitting at the table. I looked there and I said, "Where's Mom?" She said, "Well, she's sleeping. She's not feeling well." I said, "Well, I'm going to go see her." And she said, "No, don't go in there. Just let her rest." I said, "No, I'm not leaving until I see my mom." So I sat down on the edge of the bed, put my hand on her shoulder, and she didn't say anything. She just kind of, she had her eyes open, and then it's like tears were coming down. I said, "Mom, you'll be okay. Dorothea's taking care of you." And Dorothea had talked about being a nurse at one time. So we felt that she knew what she was doing and that she would take care of her. So I'm saying, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. I'll see you tomorrow. Give her a kiss, and I left. The next morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, was when I got the phone call from my sister saying that my mom died. She got a phone call from Dorothea saying, "Come and get your mom's stuff," which was an empty purse. Mom had jewelry, she had money, and everything was gone. Dorothea said, "Your mom gave me everything," and she gave back an empty purse. Dorothea had called the coroner, and she said that her roommate committed suicide. When they did the autopsy, the amount of drugs that were in my mother were all at toxic levels. She poisoned her, and I think it was over time, with those drinks, little by little, put that in her system. We went to see the prosecutor, Bill Wood, so that they could pursue a murder charge against Dorothea for my mother's death.
My first reaction was I was in absolute shock. She drained the bank account that she and Ruth Monroe held jointly as business partners, and then she killed Ruth Monroe. Unfortunately, it was my last day, actually, in the district attorney's office, so I turned them over to our major crimes unit. They reviewed the matter. The crime lab in Sacramento was not set up to test for certain things in 1982, so there was no way to determine that Ruth Monroe had not, in fact, committed suicide.
Mom did not commit suicide.
Ở đầu móng thì dính chút xíu màu nè cả nhà.
After Dorothea Puente was released from prison in 1985 for the cases that I had been prosecuting her on, she decided she had to change the way she was doing things. She could not be a caregiver outside of the home. So she started taking in tenants from 1985 forward at 1426 F Street.
Was there a mechanism in place at that time to catch someone like Dorothea Puente?
There were a lot of mechanisms. She was prohibited by the terms of her parole from having anything to do with individuals as a caregiver. She was totally, it was totally illegal. But every so often, somebody would come by to kind of inspect and take a look and see what was going on. She knew all the magic words to say to these government officials or people working for social services. Remember, record keeping in 1985 is not what it is today. She had been married 4 times. At various times, her married name was Dorothea McCall, Dorothea Johansson, Dorothea Montalvo. So sometimes law enforcement agencies didn't exactly know exactly what somebody had on their record. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. So it was about 2.5 years that she was running an unlicensed care facility, having people come in and out, providing medications to them, taking their government checks from them. Nobody was keeping an eye on her until 1988.
Bert was missing, so I went to file a missing person. But I really fear that there's other things going on in that house that John Sharp talked to me about.
In 1988, I was a homicide detective, and I also was a detective in charge of the missing persons unit. An officer went over to 1426 F Street to take a missing persons report. Spoke to Dorothea, spoke to everybody, and they all said the same thing, that Bert had left with a relative. All of them, same story. But one of the boarders slipped the officer a note.
Rồi ok nha cả nhà.
John Sharp would tell us later that he didn't know exactly what happened to Bert,
This
but
one
he
is
knew
oil
that
though,
what
no?
Dorothea was
Dạ
telling
dạ
him to
đây
say
đây.
wasn't true.
See.
What did she tell you exactly? She just said, John, I'm going to ask you to lie for me today. She said, I think I'm going to jail. She said, the police are coming out. And she said, I want you to tell them that I was gone Thursday and Friday. And that you saw Bert on Saturday. She said, and you knew you hadn't seen him for over 2 months, didn't you? And she said, I'll make it well worth your while.
And so I start researching who was Dorothea Puente. And I find out that she was on federal parole. You know, she was incarcerated for putting knockout drops in individuals' drinks, taking their money and their Social Security checks. I started to say, wait a minute. It was evident that I needed to get into her house and to talk to her, and I needed to find out what happened to Bert.
Bộ này lấy nó
was very persistent about us taking
120 thôi nha
Yes, I did
cả nhà.
want them to go dig. We've got to do something because I still have a guy missing.
Thấy sương sương nó
I
thôi.
wanna know where he is. You
Thấy
gotta
mắc
do
quá nó
it.
đi à. Nó đi luôn á. Sương thôi.
My partner and I went to Dorothea's boarding house with her parole officer, Jim Wilson. So we went in, I asked her about Bert. She said that she was expecting us. She went on and told me, only thing she knows is that Bert had left with a relative. She was
Anh chị nào chưa xem cách làm marble cái bộ này thì có thể chút xem lại cái video nha. Daniel sẽ post lên.
And I'll never forget this. She looked directly at her parole officer and she said, Jim, I'm in violation of my parole. And I looked at him and I remember he had like a stunned look. I then asked her if it would be okay if I could search her premises, and she agreed. scurrying around looking under the bed and the closet for Bert. I kept finding blue pills, capsules. And people that have sleep disorders, they take this drug.
Ok.
Her past using drugs to knock out her victims.
Rồi bye cả nhà nha. Em giờ sẽ post cái video lên. Anh chị nào chưa xem cách làm thì có thể xem lại nha. Ok bye.